Jake's footsteps echoed in the quiet hallway as he made his way to Mr. Johnson's apartment. The 70-year-old veteran had agreed to be the next interviewee in Jake's quest to learn from the elders in his community. Excitement and a touch of nervousness bubbled within him. Each conversation had been so enlightening, and he couldn't wait to hear Mr. Johnson's story. Knocking on the door, Jake was greeted by a weathered but kind face. "Come on in, Jake," Mr. Johnson said, ushering him inside. The apartment was tidy and sparse, with a few framed photographs and military memorabilia adorning the walls. "Thank you for agreeing to talk with me, Mr. Johnson," Jake said, taking a seat on the couch. "I'm really looking forward to learning about your experiences." Mr. Johnson settled into his armchair, his gaze thoughtful. "Well, I'm happy to share what I can. As you know, I served in the military for many years. It was a big part of my life, and it shaped me in ways I'm still trying to understand." Jake nodded, pulling out his notebook and pen. "Could you tell me a little about your time in the service? What was that like for you?" Leaning back, Mr. Johnson let out a deep sigh. "It was both the best and worst of times, to be honest. I enlisted right out of high school, full of patriotism and a desire to serve my country. The training was grueling, but I was determined to prove myself." His eyes took on a faraway look as he continued. "Once I was deployed, the reality of war hit me hard. The chaos, the fear, the heartbreak of losing brothers in arms. It was all so much to process. There were moments when I questioned everything, wondering if I was doing the right thing." Jake listened intently, his pen moving across the page as he captured Mr. Johnson's words. "What kept you going during those difficult times?" "Camaraderie, mostly," Mr. Johnson replied. "The bonds I formed with my fellow soldiers were unbreakable. We looked out for each other, leaned on each other, and found strength in our shared mission. That sense of purpose and belonging, it's what got me through the darkest days." Jake nodded, his brow furrowed in thought. "I can't imagine how challenging that must have been. What lessons did you take away from your time in the military?" Mr. Johnson paused, his gaze turning inward. "Well, for one, I learned the true meaning of sacrifice. I saw firsthand the ultimate price that some pay to protect our freedoms. It made me realize how precious life is, and how important it is to make the most of the time we have." He leaned forward, his eyes locking with Jake's. "I also learned the value of resilience. War tests you in ways you can't even fathom, but if you have the strength to keep pushing forward, you can overcome just about." Jake's pen flew across the page, capturing Mr. Johnson's words with a sense of reverence. "That's really powerful. Do you think those lessons have shaped the way you live your life now?" "Absolutely," Mr. Johnson replied without hesitation. "I try to live each day with gratitude and purpose. I know that life is fragile, so I make an effort to cherish the small moments and the people I love. And when I face challenges, I draw on that inner strength I developed during my time." He paused, a wistful smile spreading across his face. "You know, Jake, one of the greatest gifts of my life has been the opportunity to share my experiences with younger generations like yourself. It's my way of honoring those who didn't make it back, and of passing on the wisdom I've gained." In the service, Jake felt a lump form in his throat, overwhelmed by the gravity of Mr. Johnson's words. "Thank you for sharing that with me," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "I can't even begin to imagine what you've been through. But I'm grateful that you're willing to open up and teach me." Mr. Johnson reached out and placed a weathered hand on Jake's shoulder. "The pleasure is all mine, son. I hope that in some small way, my story can help you navigate the complexities of this world with a little more understanding and compassion." As Jake left Mr. Johnson's apartment, his mind was swirling with the lessons he had learned. The sacrifices, the resilience, the desire to pass on wisdom. It was all so profound, and he knew he would carry these insights with him for the rest of his life.